Coming up in today's edition of Locked On Eagles, we take a first look at the upcoming matchup against the Tennessee Titans on Sunday, plus updates to injuries from Jordan Davis and Dallas Goedert, all that and more right here on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Eagles.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. Welcome in, Eagles fans, to a Wednesday edition of the show. You can find us Monday through Friday on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. Make sure you also hit us up on Twitter, Talking Birds, all throughout the day at Locked On Birds and at DiBiase, LOE. It's Tennessee Titans week. The Eagles take on the Titans on Sunday at 1 o'clock. It's the first time they've played Tennessee since that ridiculous game in 2018 where it's, 4th and 14, 4th and 15. Marcus Mariota sheds multiple hits and converts, and the Eagles lose that very frustrating football game. Most games in the beginning of 2018 were very frustrating. So it's the first time they're taking on Tennessee since that game. I cannot believe it's already been 4 years since the season after the Super Bowl. Time really does fly, and I feel like sports is kind of a huge representation of that. It's these NFC, AFC matchups that take every 4 years to come back around. But here we are, and both of these teams are at the top of their conferences. The Titans right now are the 3 seed in the AFC, and the Eagles are the 1 seed in the NFC. It's going to be a big matchup. I have keys to this game coming up on today's edition of the show. I have some thoughts overall, too, about how the Titans have built their winning roster versus the Eagles, some similarities, but also some differences that I think are positive differences for the Eagles compared to Tennessee. But first, guys, an update from some pretty crucial injuries right now that the Eagles are dealing with from 2 very great young core pieces on offense and on defense, defensive tackle Jordan Davis and tight end Dallas Goedert. Very good news on both fronts here. Jordan Davis today was officially activated from the injured reserve list. He has now that 21-day practice window to return to the lineup. Huge, considering if he can play this week, and head coach Nick Sirianni today said, still doesn't know if Davis is going to play in this game, but reporters said that Davis was running around and seemed like he was in a really good mood and excited to be back for the first time since before the bye week, right? Or I should say the game right after the bye week, that Pittsburgh Steelers game. He got banged up and he's been out for the last month dealing with that ankle injury. If he can play, again, Sirianni said he's not sure yet, but if he can, it is perfect timing because we've seen how much the Eagles have struggled against the run without Davis in the lineup, right? Fletcher Cox has struggled. Javon Hargrave, Milton Williams, not world beaters in that area either, so they had to go out and bring in Ndamukong Suh and Linval Joseph off the streets. If you can get Davis back in time to take on Derrick Henry, the best running back in football, coming up this Sunday, considering the way the Eagles have not tackled great this year and not stopped the run, perfect timing. And then when it comes to Dallas Goedert, Goddard talked to the media today about his injury status, and he is still on IR. He's not eligible to come back until week 15, which would be that matchup against the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field. The good news, though, is Goddard said he expects to be back the minute that he is eligible to be activated from that IR. So this is very positive on both fronts. Like, not having 2 of your best young players on both sides of the ball for a month plus, definitely not great. But the Eagles are 10-1. They have survived without these 2 players. And now if you can get them back the minute they are eligible to come off IR, that's really the best case scenario. Like, the minute they can come back, they're healthy enough to. That's not always how it works. Avonte Maddox, I'm not sure if that's how it's going to be with the Eagles starting slot corner. You know, he's dealing with a hamstring injury, and with hamstrings, they're really hit or miss. And one day it looks better and the next day it doesn't. It's just a very wavy injury. And especially when you're a corner that, changes direction so quickly, especially in the slot, when you got to really cover routes on both sides of the field, it's a tough position to deal with that kind of injury. So I'm not sure if that's going to be the same luck and fate for Maddox or even Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's out indefinitely right now with a lacerated kidney. But the fact that the Eagles should be getting Jordan Davis back If not against the Titans, I think he will play on a limited snap count. But if he doesn't, he'll absolutely back for that following matchup. And then you look at Dallas Goedert. Again, you only have a few more weeks to go until he'll be ready. And he's not even in a shoulder sling anymore after suffering that shoulder injury against Washington on Monday Night Football. So you're going to get these two players back for the stretch run into the playoffs. And that's crucial because Dallas Goedert and Jordan Davis are instrumental to the Eagles' potential ceiling this year. If they're going to win it all, Dallas Goedert and Jordan Davis, they're going to be a huge part of it. So great news for Jordan Davis and Dallas Goedert. Hopefully the same fate will come for Avonte Maddox and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. You know, it's been great to see Quez Watkins step up for Goddard and Linval Joseph for Jordan Davis and Reed Blankenship and Josiah Scott for Maddox and Gardner-Johnson. You know, the next man up mentality has really helped the Eagles lately, as it has really the last 5 to 6 years, as we all know. But again, if the Eagles are going to reach their true ceiling this year, their true potential, they need those guys back. So we'll keep you updated right here on Locked On Eagles. I think Jordan Davis is key, and I really hope he plays against Tennessee. I have other keys to this matchup on Sunday coming up next, guys, right here on Locked On Eagles. And guys, today's show is presented by Turo. Turo is the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the US, the UK, Canada, and coming soon to Australia. Our Aussies out there too. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle that you've had your eye on to see if it fits your lifestyle. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. Guys, today's Locked On Eagles is also presented by Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that you're sure going to love. Find Block Forever now wherever you get your podcasts. Block Forever is a brand new podcast from former NFL All-Pro Ryan Khalil and Audible. Khalil takes the conversation about football to the next level. He gives football fans an insider's look at the game through the eyes of the greatest players and personalities of all time. He sits down with players like Christian McCaffrey, who talks about his love-hate relationship with fantasy football. Juju Smith-Schuster gives his most honest opinion on other players and positions in the league. New episodes of Block Forever will be recorded and released every week ahead of Thursday Night Football. Ryan and guests discuss topics like the players' psyches, sports betting, playing through pain, being a leader, all of that and more. Available for free on Audible or wherever you get your podcast. Catch the full Block Forever series available anywhere you get your shows. Available everywhere now. Audible. Get in the game. I'm Louis DiBiase. Thank you so much for making this Wednesday edition of Locked On Eagles and every edition of Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insight that only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. We are taking a first look at this upcoming Sunday battle at 1 o'clock between the Eagles and the Titans, two of the best teams in football, two teams that run the football really well, two teams that play really good defense. And I would say the Eagles are a much better passing offense, but Tennessee has an experienced, solid quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. They've got Robert Woods and Treylon Burks. Like, they're a pretty good team as they've been since 2019. The key, I feel like, the main keys to this game, it's going to be a player I mentioned segment one, if he plays, Jordan Davis, and it's going to be the revenge game for wide receiver A.J. Brown. I think the 2022 first-round investments the Eagles made, right? Davis and Brown are the two guys that you spent your draft picks on through the draft and through trades. I think they're going to be key on both sides of the ball. And we talked about Jordan Davis coming back. Perfect timing against Derrick Henry. That is going to be such a crucial matchup because, again, Tennessee, yeah, I like Treylon Burks more than most. I liked him coming out of Arkansas. I think Robert Woods has always been a solid number 2 receiver, and I respect Ryan Tannehill for who he is. But who are we kidding? This Tennessee Titans passing offense is not a top-tier unit by any stretch of the imagination. Any success they have, most of the time, comes from play action. It comes from the threat of Derrick Henry running the football. They have and always will run this offense through Derrick Henry, I think, as long as Mike Vrabel's the coach and as long as Derrick Henry is healthy and in that backfield. So the key matchup is trying to, I don't know if you can really say stop, but I would say contain Henry. That's going to be the key. Kind of like you did with Jonathan Taylor 2 weeks ago. You kept him under 85 rushing yards, and, that doesn't sound great, but for a top-tier elite running back, if you can keep Derrick Henry under 100 yards or just, under the in stats are, of course, you got to contextualize them. He might have 120 rushing yards, but it doesn't matter, and you are controlling the game the entire time. You just got to make sure Derrick Henry isn't the reason that you lose this game. You can't let him beat you. You have to make sure you get on him quickly. You wrap him up. Tackling has to be very sure-handed. You need to get multiple bodies on this guy. But that's why you need Jordan Davis, because Jordan Davis is one of the few players where he can take Derrick Henry down himself, right? 6'5", over 330, 340 pounds. This is size versus size. This is a fun matchup up the middle. This is King Kong versus Godzilla. Jordan Davis versus Derrick Henry. It's going to be a key matchup, and the Eagles have really missed Davis. He was on fire when he got hurt in that game against Pittsburgh. So right before he got hurt, Jordan Davis was Pro Football Focus. Not only was he the highest graded rookie defensive lineman when he got hurt, but he was also Pro Football Focus's 13th graded defensive tackle in the entire league. That includes veterans and rookies. Jordan Davis was getting very, very comfortable in this scheme. Against the run, he was dominant from the jump from week 1 on, but you even saw his pass rushing game start to get more developed. He would start to develop a counter move to just his classic bull rush. You'd see him used in different ways in Jonathan Gannon's scheme, and then he got hurt and that progress kind of stalled. So this is definitely a key stretch to get him back. You've got Derrick Henry here. You've got 2 matchups still upcoming against Saquon Barkley. You also have another matchup against Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. So, you stopped Jonathan Taylor a few weeks ago, and Linval Joseph has been a big addition to this defensive line, and Fletcher Cox is coming off the best game of his career, but you struggled against, or not career, in 2022 of the season. A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones, though, they still made you pay. Those were the 2 key sources of offensive production that the Packers had last week. Both of them did have touchdowns, one through the air and one on the ground. So Jordan Davis against Derrick Henry, that is going to be the key, because if you can stop Henry or at least contain him, then you can take advantage. And I think Tennessee is not going to be able to pass the ball as efficiently if they don't have the play action game to rely on. So I really think that's the key on both sides of the ball. It's the 2 players that you invested your first round picks on in 2022. On the opposite end of things, it is A.J. Brown against the Titans defense. And I know, Brown said today in his press conference that, there's no animosity with Tennessee. He almost tried to downplay the revenge game, although he did say Titans fans right now don't like him. And, he's been talking a lot of trash to Tennessee since he was traded. But let's be real. There's a reason he was talking trash to those fans. He can try to downplay this like most players do. I mean, we saw the revenge tour that happened earlier this year, right? Where it felt like every week a key 2017 Super Bowl member in Philly was returning to take on the Eagles. Deuce Staley, you had Jalen Reagor and even Justin Jefferson in a way that was kind of a revenge game. Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, Zach Ertz. These guys can all say it's, of course, we know a lot of guys on that sideline, and, I love my time in Philly, but at the end of the day, it's a game, and every game's the same. Not true. They'll lie until they're blue in the face, but I think all these guys care about beating their former team. Look at how juiced Nick Sirianni was to get a 17-16 win over the Indianapolis Colts. He wanted to win that game, stick it to his former team who fired his guy, Frank Reich. It matters to these guys. It matters to the coaches. It matters to the players. And it matters to the front office and ownership as well. Some games mean a little more, and this one's going to mean a lot for A.J. Brown. Because let's be real, Tennessee didn't want to pay him. They said we would rather collect a first-round pick. We'd rather take Treylon Burks, who we think is they took the guy that I guess compares to Brown the most of any of those draft prospects. We're going to take the guy on a cheaper deal. We feel like he can mask your production by a certain percentage. And we don't want to give you the big contract despite being our main source of production in the passing game when we weren't giving it to Derrick Henry. I think A.J. Brown deep down although he has more receiving yards this year than all Titans receivers, I think deep down he wants to stick it to them and show them up close and personal that they should have showed him the bag that Philadelphia gave him. So I know they're winning without him right now, but to not want to pay A.J. Brown, I still cannot wrap my mind around that, considering what he has done for Jalen Hurts' development, what he has done for this offense as a whole. Over the middle, run after the catch, deep down the field, contested catches. He has been removing the quarterback from the equation. He has been one of the most valuable players in the NFL in 2022. I know that offense has always run through Derrick Henry, but to think that A.J. Brown wasn't worth that contract is crazy because, at least although they always ran through Derrick Henry, they would have the ability to air it out at times, right? I mean, you look at 2019 when they made the AFC Championship, when Ryan Tannehill was on fire, it was him and A.J. Brown doing it. This year, they're winning still in spite of that passing game because of the run game, because of a good defense, but they feel way more one-dimensional than even they felt in the past, and they already felt that way. I can't imagine you thinking with Tennessee, yeah, we're good. If we play Kansas City, Buffalo, Bengals again, and we're outgunned through the air, we don't need an A.J. Brown. We'll still get it done. I think that's crazy, even for being a run-heavy team. The Eagles run the football too. Both of these teams are the masters of running in this world of cover 2 defense that's just trying to stop the deep ball. But the difference between the Eagles and the Titans is the Eagles can throw 30 plus times a game and they can blow the doors off of your defense. And that's not just because of A.J. Brown. It's because of Jalen Hurts, this offensive line, Dallas Goedert, Devontae Smith, and Quez Watkins. They have a ton of pieces through the air. Howie Roseman made sure they built this offense strong enough to be able to pass the football at will. But A.J. Brown is the main thing that took you over the top from last year to this year. So that is definitely the key difference. Both of these teams, their bread and butter, their signature move, if you will, is running the football at an elite level. But the Titans gave the Eagles their weapon that allowed them to be more balanced. The Eagles are that team now at an even higher level than Tennessee was throwing the football, and they can run the football just as well. So I think that is definitely the difference of why I think you're way more confident as just an NFL guy. If you were going to predict the Titans or the Eagles to make a deep run, everybody is skeptical of these run-first teams, how deep they can go in the postseason when you run into a star quarterback. I think, even people doubt Baltimore as well. The difference is, though, again, the Eagles and even the Ravens, because of their quarterback and because of, the Eagles' weapons like A.J. Brown, they do still have that ability. Tennessee does not. And so that is definitely the difference. And I think A.J. is a key here. Passing the football, going to be a key against the Titans. The Titans this year, a very good defense. They are number 1 in run DVOA on defense. Against the pass, though, they're 17th. So I think although last week was run down the Green Bay Packers' throats, and it was the right strategy, right? 363 yards on the ground. I think this week you should flip the script. I want to see more of what you did against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Houston Texans, the Washington Commanders. I want to see you throw the football this week to A.J. Brown and to all of your weapons. Guys, we'll continue to get into this matchup coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles, and today's show is sponsored by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Head over to LinkedIn.com, then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number 1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. I'm Louis DiBiase. We are wrapping up this Wednesday edition of Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. You can make sure you follow us on Twitter at Locked On Birds and at DiBiase LOE. Want to hear what you think are the key matchups in this game between the Eagles and the Titans. We're going to dive deeper into the matchup tomorrow as well. It's crossover Thursday with Locked On Eagles and Locked On Titans. Want to know what our boys over at Locked On Titans have to say about this A.J. Brown revenge game, about Jordan Davis versus Derrick Henry if Davis plays, the keys on both sides of the ball. And overall, too, I want to know what they have to say about the, long-term and short-term outlook of this Titans team, because they're in such a weird spot. And I was nervous the Eagles were going to become a Tennessee-like team or a Baltimore, where they have a very high floor because of how well they run the football with Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders and an elite offensive line. You're always going to win, I feel like 8 to 10 games every year with that strategy. Like, you're always going to be in it, especially now with how much defenses play zone, cover 2 defense, light in the box. They're just trying to stop star quarterbacks. But at the same time, I was nervous the Eagles were going to be like the Titans, where they were capped when it comes to their passing potential, because I didn't know if Jalen Hurts was just going to be another Ryan Tannehill. And I didn't know if they were going to just continue to be this run-first team and really take that next step. The Eagles, as I said at the end of segment 2, they have become that multi-dimensional threat. And part of it was by stealing the Titans' weapon through the air in A.J. Brown. But the Titans are kind of going in the opposite direction. They were always a run-first team, but like I mentioned, they had A.J. Brown. They could hang with teams if they had to throw the football. Now they really don't, and they're still winning. So I know I've mentioned this a lot on the show, and I guess it's probably because a lot of NFL teams are in the same boat, but they just kind of feel stuck in this good, not great world. Maybe that's just, again, how most NFL teams are. There are not a lot of great teams in this league. It's very parity-centric league. But at the same time, like, Tennessee, I feel like, is in a worse spot than most that are atop their conference, because they feel like pretenders. I know they win every week and they find a way, even when they lose A.J. Brown. But I can't imagine they're ever going to win a title this way. I can't imagine they're ever going to win a Super Bowl. And that's just such a weird spot to be in, because you're too good, it feels like, to hit the reset button, because you're always knocking on the door. Like, you're always invited to the party, but you never really take that next step and dance with the pretty girl, if you know what I mean. So I don't know what the Titans' end game is. Maybe they truly believe they can win a championship this way and hope Tannehill just gets hot in the playoffs. But especially without A.J. Brown, you couldn't do it before. If you're going to have to, like, if you're not having success with Henry, or if he gets hurt, or if you're trailing and you got to throw to get back in it, like, if you're not controlling the tempo of that game and controlling time of possession and with the lead, they don't have the bodies now to throw with these other teams in the AFC. If they get caught with like a Chargers team in the first round, or a Bengals, and then you got the Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, these teams can throw on you. And Tennessee is not a great passing defense. That's why I think the Eagles can have success this week with Jalen Hurts inside the pocket. I just don't know what the Titans' end game is. You could have justified what they were doing if you signed A.J. Brown. Because it's kind of what the Eagles are. The Eagles are still a run-first team, but they are multi-dimensional. But the Titans really aren't. I still think it's going to be all about Malik Willis. I still think eventually they need to, and I would have did it this year, because I think you've already reached your ceiling with Tannehill and what you're going to do with this era of Titans football. I know Malik Willis is raw, but I would have started him throughout the entire year. And with the attributes and the potential that he has, and with the way he can run the football, you can still have that dominant run attack with Malik Willis in the backfield and Derrick Henry. It might be even better with Malik Willis in the backfield. That's what I would have did, because that's the Titans' path to becoming who the Eagles are, a run-first, really high-floor team to becoming a Super Bowl contender. The Eagles got that from Hurts taking a step and adding A.J. Brown to this already loaded offense. But the Titans, I feel like they need to find out if Malik Willis can be their Hurts, especially considering they don't have the receivers. Tannehill's not going to be able to elevate them to a championship status, in my opinion. And I know you all like to tweet at me every week about my Malik Willis over Jalen Hurts takes this past offseason, and I'll eat that for sure. Jalen Hurts is definitely what I wanted Malik Willis to be. But hear me now and believe me later, I still think the Titans are in good hands. I still think they got lucky, and they do have an out of this good, not great era. And I think it's Malik Willis. I still think, for the same reasons Jalen Hurts is a stud, I think Malik Willis is going to be a stud. But for now, they're continuing on with the path they've had for the last 4 years, and they're still a tough test for sure. Like, I don't think they're a title contender, but They are one of the harder matchups the Eagles have had all year. Honestly, this might be, is it the hardest opponent they've played? Maybe Minnesota week 2 when it comes to like the strength of the roster and how good they are this year. I think the Dallas Cowboys will be that team in a few weeks, but this might be overall the toughest test the Eagles have had. It's definitely one of the tougher matchups on the schedule. So again, the keys, you got to stop Derrick Henry. And I think you got to throw the football on Sunday. We'll continue, though, to dive into this matchup. Got a show for you tomorrow. Crossover Thursday with the boys over at Locked On Titans. And another podcast for you on Friday, Monday through Friday. We have a show for you on all podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. Make sure you hit us up on Locked On Birds and on at DiBiase LOE on Twitter. We thank you so much for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day, guys. Make sure your second listen is the Locked On Sports Today podcast. All the news across the league, plus the take of the day and instant reactions available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching and listening to Locked On Eagles, and let's go Birds.